Hi, we are going to be working on IXL topic P3, which is where we talk about reflection on the y-axis and the x-axis. So if we talk about reflection on the x-axis, if I have a graph here, and my function looks like this, it's going up and it's above the x-axis, and I want it to reflect on the x-axis, what's going to happen is it is going to flip vertically. So I see here that my function that's green right up top here is going to cross over the x-axis. All right, so that's actually going either a vertical reflection. So it's going from above to below. Now we're going to look at the y-axis reflection. So if I have a graph right here and I see that my reflection is like this. It's a linear equation. I notice that if I'm going to cross over on this y-axis, then it's going to flip side to side. So that's actually a horizontal reflection. So it's side to side. So if we talk about our x and y values, our horizontal change, my slope here, when it was originally a negative slope, if you look here, this is a y equals, let's say, negative 2x plus, well, it's 0, right? And then this one, I notice, still going through the origin here, so my y value didn't change. So my y value is still 0, but my slope did become positive. So my slope here is going to change for a horizontal, okay? Now, if I look over back at this one, we notice that my k changed, so my y changed, and so did my x value. So both change for the x-axis reflection. So we're going to look at some examples, and hopefully this comes much clearer to you guys once you guys watch this video and then do your IXL assignment for P3. So if we look at the first example, we see that it says g of x, where find g of x, where g of x reflects across the x-axis, and we have a function of 4 times the quantity of absolute value of x plus 2 plus 4. So if I have that graph, I know it's going to look something like this. I know that it's at left negative 2, up 4, and it's positive, right? That's what the graph looks like roughly. And I know it's going to reflect on the x-axis. So that means it is going to cross the x-axis. So that means it has to flip upside down and go like that. All right, so that tells me that my slope went from a 4 to 1 ratio to a negative 4. So that means that my A is going to change negative. My slope changes. And I did not shift left or right at all. So my H inside stays exactly the way it is. It does not change. However, my K value was positive 4, but down here it's negative 4. So my Y value changes signs. All right, so it was positive, now it becomes negative 4. My A changed. My A was a 4. It was positive 4. Now it's a negative 4. So my slope is negative 4. So my function is negative 4 with a quantity of x plus 2 inside and a negative 4. So that example answer would be right here. So we notice that our A and our Y value, K value changed. All right. Look at the example 2. We have what's going to happen to my G function if it reflects across the x-axis. So once again, we have the x-axis. That is what we're going to be crossing here. Okay, we're crossing the x-axis. My original function, it's a quadratic. It's going right 4 up 5, and it's a positive slope. So that's roughly what it looks like. I know that if I'm flipping over the x-axis, then I am going up and down. So I'm flipping all the way upside down. So if I look at this, if we are reflecting on the x-axis, then A is going to change, and so is K. Only those two things are going to change because I did not shift left or right at all when I flipped it over the x-axis. Still at the same x spot of 4. So I'm going to change my sign here for my A. So instead of it being 7, it's going to be -7. And instead of it being +5, it's going to be -5. So I know I have a -5 here. So that looks like it's the only option. And this 7 becomes a negative. And this 4 does not change. So that tells me that right there is my answer for that problem. All right, looking at the last two, we see that we are going to be following the same concept. We are changing g of x so that it reflects on the y-axis. So this one's a little bit different. Instead of changing on the x-axis, we are going to be flipping over the y-axis. So I'm flipping over this y-axis. My original function is the absolute value. So this is my parent function. Boop, 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 boop. It has a slope of a, which would be 1 over 1. And my h and k are both at 0, 0. All right, they gave me the parent function. So if I flip this side to side, my parent function looks like this. Boop, boop. Oh my gosh, nothing happened. So what's going to happen here? In reality, I'm not going to change A or K at all. I'm flipping side to side. So what's going to happen here is only my H is going to change. All right. Now, since it's an absolute value, if I change H to negative, we have a negative X inside of the absolute value. And remember, when we plug in a negative value, whatever we get out of it becomes positive. So theoretically, if you plug a negative in here into IXL, it's going to tell you you're wrong because it's wanting you to write the absolute value of X. It wants you to simplify, get rid of that negative sign. Because if I look at my original function here, it's exactly the same as the parent function when I reflected on the y-axis. So my answer is just the absolute value of X for that problem. Okay. Looking at the last one, we have that our function is going to be crossing on the x-axis this time. So I have f of x equals -4x plus 8. We said that when we do reflect on the x-axis, we have a graph of -8, of +8, it's all the way up here, and the slope is negative. So it's going down like that. If I'm going to reflect, I'm going upside down. So this point goes all the way down here, and it goes like this, right? So my k changed, and my h didn't, but my slope did. So my answer is going to be 4x minus 8. My a is -4 there. Since it flipped, my slope was a negative. Now it's a positive. So what we're going to do is flip it. Now I think I originally graphed that wrong. So it's a negative slope like this. All right, but then it still flips to be the opposite. So it turns out to be like that. So when you're flipping on the x-axis, you're going to change these two signs. And that's what you're going to be doing. All right. I hope this helped you out. This one's a little bit more difficult, so if you need help, I am free for tutoring this week.